regards to everything, because at that point I was already validated for a number of years. At that point, where Lencho lived directly right there with me in a housing unit. So if I can, bro, let me back up a little bit, and if I can, let me say something else in regards to myself. Like, I don't want any of these stories or this timeline of my life to be viewed as a form of glorification of this lifestyle in any way. Like, I wish everybody the absolute best. I wish everybody over here, over there, I don't care where you're from no more. That I wish everybody success at this point in my life. Everybody, good health and blessings, bro. I feel that all the trial and tribulations of my life that led me to this point are just factual things. They're just things that actually occurred. So I'm not here to try to sell a story or to promote the lifestyle or to glorify it in any way. If anything, bro, it's a tragedy. It's a nightmare of how a good suburban kid can go from riding skateboards and BMX bicycles, from having bleach blonde front hair, from wearing TNC surf design and OP and Envision streetwear, to full-fledged gang member with khakis and bald head and tattoos in prison, bro. When I didn't come from that, I mean, I didn't come from that, So I don't want to glorify anything, because I don't glorify that life anymore. I wish those guys the absolute best, and I wish everyone the best. That's just being honest and being truthful. And this is just factual events that occurred in my life that, that I don't have a problem, explaining the story, it's not something that I glorify. It's a nightmare, bro. It's a tragedy of what happened to a good kid, bro, that, that slipped through the cracks. You know what I mean? And that's just being honest, but back to the story, bro. So prior to all that, like I said, the level of violence, the level of commitment, the more individuals I met, the deeper I got into the gang, the more sklecha or schooling I got, the more I started to becoming knowledgeable about the rules, the regulations, what was permitted, what wasn't, what our obligations were as knowledgeable soldados, so to speak. It just continues to evolve the level of commitment and the level of responsibility, their level of responsibility. And my story is not unique to anybody. The truth is, in those years, these things that were going on, everybody was doing these things that were in prison, that pretty much had any lengthy sentence, that were on any level 4. And that's just being real, So, to backtrack a little bit, I ended up catching, I think I had a 64-month shoe term by the time I left Tehachapi. And unfortunately, our luck didn't turn out the way we wanted it to end up staying there, because, ultimately the committee and the prison and the warden became knowledgeable that our goal was to continue to get in trouble there until they opened up the security housing unit there. And they forced us, then we would be forced to stay there, or we would be able to stay there, because now this is a security housing unit. There would be no purpose to send us back to Pelican Bay. So they knew that, and basically they told us straight up, we know what you're doing, and it's not going to work. No matter what you do here, you're not staying here, because this facility, this shoe facility, it has metal bunks in it. It still has metal lockers in Tehachapi ATSIG and Tehachapi Shoe. So it was not going to be prohibited us as level 4 180 inmates to be housed in that facility. That was going to be a security housing unit for lower level offenders, because those who are not aware about Pelican Bay or Corcoran Shoe, the beds are what they call bedrock. Everything in the cell is made out of concrete. There's no metal in there, because what we do as convicts or inmates, we're capable and able to cut the lockers and the bunks. Any harder metal cuts any softer metal. So as long as you can make a groove and you continue to groove it out, eventually that metal is gonna break. You know what I mean? So and you're gonna be able to cut it right off of the locker or the desk or the stool or the bunk. So our goal to stay there, it wasn't happening. It was not happening, and that's just kind of what happened. And we eventually just got put on a walk alone and isolated from the rest of the ad sec, they put us in a whole other building and isolated us within one section. And the ad sec attachment was 8 block. They put us in 7 block C section, and we stood isolated there, bro. So I take off. Eventually, I transfer out of there, and I shoot to Corcoran, bro, on a layover en route to Pelican Bay with a 64-month shoot term for two incidents involving weapons, possession of a weapon, assault and a battery on an inmate, and so I got 2 24-month shoots, which gave me 48 months, a 15-month shoot for the weapon that was in my legal work, 48, 15 more of that. Then I got 6 months. I believe I left with 64 months or 69-month shoot term. Just a regular determinate shoot term, meaning I had a date, to get out of the shoot on this specific date. What happened is I ended up catching all that time, bro, and then I shot to Corcoran, and there was an incident right there before I was validated where these white boys, these skinheads, they end up, we had group yards in those years. So when I pull up to Corcoran, all the situation with the gladiator fights, with the officers opening the doors and shutting the doors on inmates and allowing them to get rival gang members and inmates that were considered no good or not in good standing to assault them, kill them, murder them, all that had just ended. And what happened in Corcoran at that time is the federal government came in and took over the entire facility, took over the medical, took over everything. There was a major investigation, and there was an indictment of 4 officers there. And then a few years right after that, there was another indictment of 4 officers where officers encouraged an inmate to sexually assault another inmate who had kicked a female officer in the stomach. So when I pulled up to Corcoran, the first time I went to Corcoran briefly en route to Pelican Bay, it was a different program, bro. Like, them cops were hardcore. They didn't give a heck about nothing. And they pretty much disrespected everybody that came off the bus, that this is what it was, period. And they made us we were in belly chains, and they made us put our tippy toes against the wall, and then we had to put our noses against the wall. That's how it was when we came off the bus, and they pretty much read us the riot act. This is what it is. Welcome to Corcoran, and they ain't playing no fucking games right here. That's pretty much it. Anyone had a problem, then be expected to get your ass beat. And that was kind of what they read to us and told us as we got off the bus. That was the first time I went up to Pelican Bay. So now, the second time I come back, now the indictments occurred with them officers. The federal government came in. It was night and day, bro. Them officers were, can I help you? Can I assist you? Please lean against the wall. It was no more longer tippy toes and nose against the wall. And that craziness and chaos, it was because the government, bro, they came in. They were investigating everybody. And as far as officers, because what occurred there. So the group, so I get housed there. In Pelican Bay, there was a bunch of murders up there, inmate on inmate murders in cells in the security housing unit. So what they did is they single-celled everybody in Pelican Bay that was validated or associated with the major gangs, So what was because of that, they were stretched thin for bed space in Pelican Bay. So a bunch of us who were going to Pelican Bay, they housed us in Corcoran pending bed space in Pelican Bay. So I'm doing, the shoot term, bro. I'm getting visits. I'm in the group yard. And we're doing rutina and machina and cadences. And it was a pump-up place, bro. It was a gladiator school in itself. It was a place where you don't rehabilitate. You meet more committed gang members as yourself. And other gang members too. One thing about prison is and specifically on the yards as well as in the hole, it's a place of respect. Like, it's a place of decency. It's a place of courtesy. Amongst the other inmates. And the reason why that is because, you can get killed really easy here. You disrespect a dude who's doing life without the possibility of parole, with no hope of ever going home. And you might find yourself with a real nice piece of a metal locker in your stomach, or in your heart. Because of the no hope type of ideology, like, this is it forever, and nobody's going to tolerate any form of disrespect towards them or their gang or group or clique. So everybody's not on eggshells, but everybody has this in their mind that, hey, you know what I mean? You don't do certain things, You don't sell soldier. You don't disrespect no one behind the door. That's what considered PCs do that, you know? I mean, it's just common courtesy and respect, so to speak, you know, if a dude asks you a question, or there's no issue with just talking to an individual. There's no harm in that. If the door is open, then that's a different thing, depending who it is and what's going on at that time. But those rules and regulations come from the top, not from the young guy who's just pulling in like I was. I was nothing other than when I pulled up to Corcoran in 1997, just a 20-year-old, gangbanger who had now graduated to prison. And and that's just really the truth, man. But Corcoran, that was what the situation was when I went to Corcoran, bro. It was a situation where the gladiator had just occurred, so it was a place of real peace, bro. At that time, the Bulldog situation had just occurred when I pulled up there, bro, where the Bulldogs had separated themselves from the NF and the Norteños, and started to make efforts to align themselves with the Sureños from Southern California. And that occurred up there in Pelican Bay. I mean, the actual specific details, how that situation have always been a little bit vague. But the truth is, this is what happened, bro. It came from the top that these dudes for now, the dudes from Fresno, the Bulldogs, F-14, were going to be now permitted to program with the Sureños and Southern Hispanics on the control compatible yards, because in Corcoran, as we still have the group yards in every ADSEG in the state of California, Sureños are not allowed to go to non-affiliated yards. You're supposed to, in those years, always request to go to non-affiliated yards, but you're not allowed to stay on those non-affiliated yards. You're required to get off if they allow you to go to the non-affiliated yards in the ADSEG, the SHU, or whatever. Because I don't know why, bro, but you're not allowed. You're not permitted to stay there. You're required to go with your own people, and those yards are called control compatible yards in those years. So if you went to ADSEG, for example, when you went to committee that clears you for property, legal work, and group yard, you had a request. Can I go? I'm not affiliated. Can I go to the non-affiliated yard? And they never really allowed you to, because they keep good track of their records, especially their gang inmates and their affiliates of whatever gang that you're associated with. They know who's who, so it's really hard to actually get on those non-affiliated yards. But I mean, you're required to ask. There's once in a while somebody slips through, or somebody who's not affiliated with the gangs or has no gang record. But now, as a Southern Hispanic, you're required to participate with those individuals that run, Southern California's cars, so to speak. So, so sometimes dudes do slip through the crack, and sometimes there's dudes that go over there, and guys that are affiliated see a dude over there that they know, and they tell him, hey, bro, you got to get off. You can't stay there, and they end up getting off, or they make their bed and they lay in it, because as I said previous, there is no secret that the gangs run the facilities, and that goes across the board in every state facility, every federal facility. That's just the way it is. I don't know how that came about, but that's just how it is. The gangs run the facilities. They make the rules in here. They make the regulations. Whether you're affiliated or not, you might come to jail or might come to prison and be non-affiliated. But when you come in, you're going to be forced to choose a side, and you're going to be forced to participate in those activities of whatever the gang decides, dictates, rules, regulations. And you're not going to have a choice. Your choice is going to be, if you don't participate, then you're going to probably be leaving that yard in the stretcher being stabbed, being assaulted. Because, like I said, everybody pays for their bed space. Everybody's required to pay for their bed space. Meaning, the thinking and ideology of prison gangs is that because they run the yards, they own the yard, they consider those are their yards, which is true, they are. And each group is dictates and governs their own group. So like I said, it can't be the same individuals always putting in work. It can't be the same individuals always going to the hole. Like, so everybody got to take a turn. And saying that your bunk is for an individual that's going to participate in that group, in that lifestyle. And if you don't want to participate in that lifestyle, and then hey, you know what? Your bed could go to somebody that is going to be a participant in that lifestyle. So what they'll do is they'll get rid of you. You know what I mean? And that's just factual. That's just facts how jails work and prisons work. Especially on a level 4, bro. Like, I mean, there's a bunch of these dudes on these YouTube channels and stuff that never walked the level 4 yard, bro. That never been to the security house. That never been, validated or met members and been associated with the major gangs or opposition of the major gangs. I know I met individuals through the course of time from all the major gangs. You know what I mean? That's just from being incarcerated, from being in jail, from being in the holes, because that's where the major gangs are, in the holes. Because in 1985, California Department of Corrections decided that they wanted to house their gangs because of the destructive nature of them and the violence, to put them all in the hole for indeterminate sentences. It was a classification issue. They felt that the older guys were influencing the younger guys basically to do their bidding, to do their crime, to be their soldiers. So if they isolated the major gang members, they wouldn't have access or ability to these younger guys like myself at that time, to influence us into committing these crimes and these acts of violence on their behalf. So what they did is they validated everyone. They created a validation process. And what that did is they cherry picked the individuals off the yards that were of these major gangs, that were making the rules, that were making the regulations, that were pushing the policies, that were forcing people to be participants of that lifestyle. So that happened in '85 though, when he made the validation process, and they opened up the security housing unit in Tehachapi. Prior to that, everybody was in San Quentin in the adjustment center, and or this program they had in San Quentin called MCU, Management Control Unit. And all that was the major gangs were isolated. They still went to a group yard in the Management Control Unit in San Quentin, but they were not permitted to go to the regular yard with everybody else, to the general population. They had phones back there. They had weights back there. They walked to and from the yard in non-handcuffs. And what happened was a BGF named Montgomery filed a lawsuit stating that he was incapable of receiving good time credit because the facility had housed him in the management control unit. And because he was not there based on discipline, he should have access to earning good time credit. So the courts basically stepped in and said, we don't give a crap how California Department of Corrections houses their inmates, and they can house them however they decide to, because safety and security overrides everything. So when California Department of Corrections director at that time hears this, he says, hey, the courts are on our side in regards to isolating these inmates. And what they did is, that's when they created the validation process, and they put everybody in the isolation chambers in Tehachapi in '85, and Shoe 2 in Old Folsom at the time. And then in '89, December of '89, they opened up Pelican Bay, and everybody got transferred from there until just barely recently, the hunger strikes and the hostilities, and then they released everybody. But everybody ended up staying in the hole from '85 to 2014, 15, 16. So, 85, 95, 2005. So 30 years. People end up staying back there 30 years, bro, before they decided to let everybody out again.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. That's a long time if you sit back and think about it. That's people's whole careers,
Yeah, that's some people's. Yeah, absolutely, bro. Can you imagine you come in at 30, bro, and you end up staying back there 30 years, and by the time they let you back out, you're 60. All right, so let's see, bro. So I'm in Corcoran, homie, and I'm in Corcoran, bro, and I do all this whole time, bro. But during the process of that, an individual is running the unit from Orange County, and he gets validated, and they send him to the validated unit because what the California Department of Correction did is it started originally when people were validated in the security housing unit. Their idea of let's separate them, let's create a difficulty to communicate within gang members. So they put one member over here, one member in this unit, one member in this section, one member over here, amongst all the gangs, because what it did is it created a difficulty in communication, which created problems within the gangs. Communication is everything with all these gangs. If you can't communicate, how can you make rules? How can you make regulations? How can you make new membership? How can you decide who does what, who does where, and who's in trouble? So it created a major issue within these gangs. So originally that's how members were housed, and members were not separated from other members. And I remember the first member I named was Vamp from San Fernando. And because he was not housed in a validated unit, years later, California Department of Corrections started to isolate members within the gang only together, or make efforts to. And then they started to put associates, validated associates within the gang over there with them. And then we had isolated units of gang membership within those units. But originally, the major gang house with the regular general inmates that were doing shoot terms, like myself at that time. I had that 64 or 69-month shoot term. So I remember I drove up to Corcoran, the big homie was right there. And so anyways, that was the first person I ever met. But when I started to, those were just meetings, just passing by. Hey, how are you? Introductions. That they didn't know who I was, bro. And most of them, some of them, I ended up running to down the line. And hey, do you remember me? I met you over here. And of course they didn't meet. They didn't remember, bro. They meet so many people. They get so many notes, so many kites, so many phone calls, so many visits, bro. I was just a kid passing by, bro, and saying hello when I did meet those initial characters, with the exception of Chavo, who became actually a really good friend of mine for a lot of years, man. And even after I left that lifestyle, bro, Chavo still wished me well and wished me the best of luck. And that's just being truthful, He didn't have any animosity that I had departed or defected or chose a different path, for the future. So anyways, bro, I do all this shoot time, bro. I do all this shoot time, and I'm thinking I'm going to the main line, and they said they had something else for me, bro. They had to go ahead and step out my cell, and they needed to take some pictures of me. And it was the institutional gang investigators. And they said that they were going to validate me. And, of course, I protested, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know none of those guys. I don't know nothing about that, And they had evidence of the contrary, bro, to prove otherwise, that I had been associating with these guys, that I had been assisting and facilitating messages and pushing issues and whatever else, bro. Whatever they said and dictated and demanded, we were nobody, bro, to challenge that. We did what we were told, and they had evidence of that, bro. They had evidence of that, and they hit me with this validation package, bro, and it goes to Sacramento to this place called LEIU, Law Enforcement Investigation Service. They are like the individuals that overview the validation process, and they decide if the evidence that the California Department of Corrections and the IGI has is substantial or is accurate and a proven fact that I am associated with these guys. And everybody that I ever knew that got a packet sent up there, a validation packet, they all got validated. So anything that went up there, that you were pretty much done, And so they hit me with that packet, bro, and it didn't take long, bro. And they came back down and said, go ahead and pack your stuff, bro. We're moving you to the validated unit, because at that time they started housing everybody in the validated units. So they put me from a 4A shoe to 4B shoe in Corcoran, and still pending transfer, bro, because Pelican Bay was completely. There was nobody going up there, bro, for several years, bro, and I was one of them dudes. Ultimately, I went to committee and I asked, can I program there? That I was programming, I was getting visits. My mother had cancer, and And I wasn't having no issues, problems, concerns. I just want to know, can I program there? And they said, yeah, they didn't have a problem with it, bro. It was a shoot facility too, and there was a lot of dudes out there that were in security housing unit for similar situations. Basically, everybody, bro. Every crime that's committed in the prison, that's where you go to security housing unit. So, anyways, bro, it hit me with this validation pack, dude, and it became a whole different world, bro. From just being a little homie, a camarada, not even a camarada, bro. I was just a Sureno, bro, a homeboy that claimed, Southern California, and pushed that line, and it was, and was a willing participant of that lifestyle at that time, bro. So they hit me with this validation packet at 23 years old. So now I've been in prison 5 years, bro, and I'm already validated. And they housed me over there in the facility with all the major groups and major gangs, bro, with all the ABs and the BGF and the Mexican Mafia members, NF members. I mentioned Lencho. Doughboy came through there out to court from Pelican Bay. Slim. Slim got made later, bro, but Slim was there at the time. Later on, he got made. Sombra was there. I think at that time he wasn't made, but he ended up getting made too from San Jose. Silver from Tulare County. He was back and forth, bro. He was always on violations coming through there. That dude Mondo came through from Merced. Lencho, bro. Lencho was doing a term when he was there. And there was a few other members, bro. And there was probably members that we didn't even know within the NF because, their policies and thinking and tier names, everything is different from the Mexican Mafia in that regard. They're very more secretive. And then there was a bunch of AB there too, bro. Named Butch, AB, Aryan Brotherhood named Butch was housed there. Butch was there. Another Aryan Brotherhood member named Buzz, who's in the feds now. Who was a very well-known figure there. A dude named James Mickey was there. He was another Aryan Brotherhood member that was there. And from San Fernando, he was there on some bank robbery shit. There was like a bunch of BGS, bro, that I remember. Malcolm, Kenyatta, Bull, Hashima, Woody, who was a historical figure throughout the penal system. He caught a murder on a sergeant in 80-something in San Quentin. They speared him through the door and hit that sergeant in the heart and killed him. He was there. It was just a different environment, bro. It was really different. And then they started to isolate. They took everybody's group yards. No, there was no more group yards. They started making these dog cages, bro, in Corcoran, homie. And it was just a different atmosphere, homie. And what happened with me, bro, is I just went there as a nobody, bro. I was one of those individuals. I went out to court in New Folsom on their behalf, and later on, and years later, as my gang. But yeah, through course of time, bro, as the years progressed, I ended up, one time I did count, and I think I know 35 to 38 actual members. And now that's grown because they've made a lot more new members than what I grew up with, bro. Not a lot more members that were just individuals like me, bro. And so I get there, and in truth, like I said, homie, I had gained some attention, some little notoriety as being just a good little foot soldier, a good order taker. But once I got housed over there, it was a different ball game, bro. I came from a unit where I was running the unit now. I had been given the keys to that unit, which was really nothing, bro. But within those individuals that are within that unit, that are just guys like me, I was the boss, bro. I mean, I was the man. Now I come from, for at minimum, and all the local surrounding decisions, because the thinking was this, bro. Everybody in Pelican Bay, all membership is isolated up there. They don't have the governing capability to make decisions. What's going on in Corcoran? What's going on in this prison? What's going on in that prison? What's going on in these local prisons? Because Pelican Bay was isolated, bro. It was so difficult to get mail in, to get mail out, to get visits. When you did go to visits, there was a double-headed camera. One camera faced your visitor. One camera faced you inside the visiting cell. You weren't allowed to stand up. It was a different ballgame up there. They were sincere about control, observation, surveillance, it was a different world, bro. Whereas Corcoran was gangland, bro. It was violent. We had group yards. We had access to inmates. I was there when multiple murders occurred over there. Suicides. I mean, it was crazy, bro. It was gangland. It was it wasn't a place for innocent people, bro, for civilians. It was headquarters for the gangs at that time. Pelican Bay was always headquarters because the majority of the gangs were housed there. But no doubt, Corcoran ran all the local facilities based on the ability to communicate, and that's just the truth. Um, there's no point to get at somebody in Pelican Bay when you can't get a reply on what needs to be done, or a question when you can get at Corcoran and you can't get a reply. So through course of being housed there, bro, just the involvement, started to continue at a higher level now, because now I'm with leadership, bro. So, I mean, I was initially housed in a section that we used to call Little Alemania, Little Germany, because it was where all the Aryan Brotherhood were housed at. And makes it more the more luck I end up getting right there. And I ended up staying in that section for like about 3 years, bro. In Little Alemania, Little Germany, with all the ABs, homie. So I ended up developing friendships and relationships with them, because as they run the yard, that's who I go to yard with. Even though we were in cages, I went with that section. I went with that section to the cages, bro. And in the security housing unit, we're slammed about. We get yarded every other day for 2 hours. Other than that, you're in a cell all day long. And 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 that's just pretty much how it is. And with the exception of doctor's line, law library, um, um, and visits, you're in your cell. Your visits in the security housing unit are 1 hour, 1 hour by appointment and appointment only. And if you fill out for, you can luckily go to law library maybe every 2 to 3 weeks, roughly. So you go to law library for maybe 2 hours. And other than that, you're in your cell, bro. So all your program is in your cell. Your working out's in your cell, and and all your study, your TV, your canteen, everything's in your cell except for shower. You get a shower every other day, 5-minute shower, to and from the shower in handcuffs.